Hi, you guys. My name is Pat Simpson. I'm going to be your moderator today for today's AdCon client agency integration collaboration session. We have Tina Barnett here. We have Steve St. Germain, Kendra Mazey, Janelle Tischer, and Laura Green, all seasoned professionals out of Detroit who we love to pieces, and we're excited to share knowledge with you today. Before we jump in, I want to give you a little bit of background on myself because I'll be your moderator. I went to Michigan State, go green, proud Spartan. Before joining the sales side, I spent 14 years on the agency side working at Campbell Ewald, Donor, McCann, Goodby Silverstein and Partners for Detroit. And then I moved on to the ad tech side. All great things. I've worked on a lot of different pieces of business from the agency side. I worked on US Cellular, Raytheon, Yellow Freight, Pier 1, Buick, Chevy Global, Chevy US car, and then I switched to sales. So with that, I'm going to pass over the torch and introduce the team, and they'll tell you a little bit about themselves, where they went to school, where they started out doing, where they are now, and what their current role is. So we'll start with Tina.
Hi, I'm Tina Barnett. I also went to Michigan State for undergrad, go green. I did my Bachelor's of Arts in Communications with a concentration in advertising. I went straight through and I got my MBA from Wayne State University with a focus in marketing. My background, actually started my advertising career at BBDO Detroit, servicing at the time, which was Daimler Chrysler. I actually attended one of these Adcraft conferences when I was in undergrad many moons ago. So it was a very nice nod to be able to be invited to come back. My current role, I am recently promoted 6 months into a head of product placement, branded entertainment with Stellantis, which is formerly FCA or Chrysler, just for lamest terms. So been here 4 years at FCA in this current role, like I said, 6 months. Also double role doing media with my colleague, Steve St. Germain, who introduced himself shortly, for Dodge and Alfa Romeo brands. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Tina. Steve, let's move over to you.
All right, sounds good. Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say, to everybody. I'm Steve St. Germain. As Tina mentioned, managed media on Dodge and Alfa Romeo at Stellantis. Got to get used to saying that, but formerly FCA Group. So a little bit about myself. I graduated with a marketing bachelor at Oakland University. So go Grizzlies for anyone out there locally. My first job out of college, I was in the media research group. I was a media research analyst at GTB. So was working on, the 2012 Ford Explorers and the Ford Focus and the C-Max and all those fun launches. From there, went to a company called Brogan and Partners in Birmingham. It's a smaller agency, about 30 people. And from there, moved to Universal McCann. So worked on FCA business on the agency side for about 3.5 years. I did a little detour in downtown Detroit and managed organic and paid social media as a social media manager at an agency called Rebuild Group until I found my way at Stellantis, and I've been here about 2 years now. So a good tour of the Detroit sort of auto landscape and done some diversified business and a little bit in and out of the creative and corporate cultures. So that's sort of where I'm coming from.
I love your background. You've worked in so many different places. I feel like you can add so much to today's discussion for people who are getting close to entering the work field and trying to decide what they want to do. Janelle, over to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what your current role is?
Sure. Thanks, Mary Pat. Hi, everyone. My name is Janelle Tischer. I am a proud Western Michigan Bronco graduate. Go Broncos. Upon graduating with a degree in marketing from Western, I got a job at Campbell Ewald. So started out as a strategic planning coordinator, that's a mouthful, at Campbell Ewald. And about 6 weeks into my job, I found out that Campbell Ewald lost the account. So I think that's really important because you'll find, as probably the rest of us on the call, that is certainly something that happens very frequently in this industry. I was fortunate enough to move over to the new company and work at GM Planworks, which then changed names throughout a whole host of years, Starcom, Publicis, and then shift over to Dentsu. Really spent 20 years working on the General Motors business, did about an 18-month detour on telecom, but heart was in automotive. Certainly being here in Detroit, that is certainly something that's very prevalent here. But 2 years ago, I really was looking for something different. And, you know, I'm a strategist at heart and shifted over to Disney. So we're Vice President of Category Solutions at Disney. And what that means is basically I'm a strategist for Disney. So I help build partnerships for automotive companies, travel companies, diversified consumer businesses all across the US, still here in Detroit, but I help answer the why. So why should clients consider Disney as a partner?
Wonderful. Kendra, I'm going to go to you next.
Excellent. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kendra Mazey. I'm the Chief Client Officer at Assembly. And I started my career, actually I started at Kent State University, if we have any golden flashes, which I'm sure we don't. However, I started in Ohio. So I started in Cleveland. I majored in advertising, had a minor in marketing. And I think one of the key things that I did early on was got an internship my junior year, and I got it in creative because I thought I was going to be creative. I thought I was creative. I was going to go in design. I was going to do all of that. So I worked for a small software company over the summer and designed their logo very badly, mind you. But I think at the time they didn't have an agency. They didn't have, you know, anyone to pay them. And quite honestly, the team didn't have any interest in it. So, but what I did learn is sitting amongst product development teams, sitting among the analytics team, sitting among their sales team and hearing every day about, you know, beating those numbers, what they needed to do day in and day out, that then pushed me into more of the media planning or the media aspect of all of it. So my second internship was with a proper agency, Wise Advertising Independent Shop in Cleveland. So worked on the Applebee's account, and then from there made the big move to Detroit. LA was too far, New York was too busy, and now I work across all of those particular cities, but landed in Detroit, J. Walter Thompson on the Domino's business. And I have not touched automotive proper, which is a little bit unusual given I've been here double-digit years, but have touched the aftermarket aspect from an automotive standpoint. But worked in the local retail aspect of it, local plans. But there I was able to, at the planner level, work on the new business pitch for the national piece of business. So early on, working in that new business, hustle and bustle, all it takes to pull together a pitch and what you need to do in that amount of time is something that I think really helped shape, you know, my career. So I recommend that to anybody. So whether you're on the agency side or what capacity, just getting involved early in that is a pretty big deal. Spent 15 years at Campbell Ewald, same thing, pitched and won the American Heart Association, the first time they'd ever advertised, and they actually awarded us the business in the room. So that was like the benchmark. You're going to pitch, you're going to win, and then the board's going to tell you how fantastic you are, and you get the business. Well, no, that is not at all. So that benchmark really got lowered after that. And then now I'm at Assembly. I've been there for 4.5 years and working across our 5 different offices in North America. So LA, New York, Detroit, Austin, and Toronto, and really building out our capabilities within the portfolio. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're excited you're here. I think that something that a lot of you touched on just now is internships and entering the workforce. I think that it's so important to do that. And there's so many different internships that are out there. I myself came back a little bit late from studying abroad in Ireland. So by the time I made it back and it was my turn to do an internship, I literally got the last internship in Detroit, maybe in Michigan, maybe out of Ohio and Illinois too. I'm not sure, but my internship was definitely unique. I was in charge of the help desk. So basically I was just hated for a whole entire summer. It was a good learning experience. My skin got a lot thicker. And what I did that made it still like useful is that anytime I had to fix anybody's computer when they were maybe blue screening or whatnot, I would talk to them about their different field and I would learn as much as possible. So really whatever internship you get, you can use it to your advantage. I wanted to go around and just talk about internships that maybe you had that benefited you and helped you determine your path, or an internship that maybe is something that's available at your company, or what an internship would look like for your current field. Tina, is it okay if we start with you?
Yeah, that's fine. I will say when I was in undergrad, I definitely did 2 internships. The first one I did my summer before my junior year. And that was with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and it was a marketing and sales internship. And it was an interesting experience. You're basically in the branch and you're selling. It was sales marketing. It's an interesting experience. I definitely learned that I did not want to do the sales side of marketing. It kind of ushered me back into the advertising realm. And then my senior year, first semester, I did an internship within a local small agency. It was called the Foresight Group in East Lansing. And I was like the account coordinator. So, it was just an interesting experience and really learning a lot about the industry in general in terms of truly starting from the bottom. So a very good experience and just really understanding how the business works with account and with creative and the marrying of the two and delivering upon clients. In terms of Stellantis internship opportunities, I know we recently did interviews within the last month or so. I would definitely advise anyone that's interested to visit our website. I know the old website was fcagroupcareers.com or careers.fcagroup.com. I'm not sure it's Stellantis, but I'm sure you can look it up online. But we definitely hire summer interns. The interns from last summer worked remotely. It was really an interesting experience for them. So I would definitely advise it. We are definitely hiring interns in the area of marketing and advertising.
Wonderful. Steve, I'm going to go over to you.
Yeah, so I think, quick plug on that internship program again is that we do have a really, really great program. I think we bring in, I think close to 150 different interns across all different, fields, whether it's engineering or product design or marketing or whatever it be. And I know it's really rewarding. They do a big project and we integrate them into the work just like, everyone else. So if you have a chance to apply, please do. Or if you're interested, please do. Me personally, I never actually had any internships. I did a lot of odd jobs and things like that. So I was doing freelance design and web development when I was in college. And then I got involved with a lot of student organizations, did a lot of networking through the American Marketing Association at Oakland University. And then, I was marketing director of our student newspaper and just trying to get involved in as many things as possible within the school network and the community network. And you meet people through that. So that worked really well for me. I did a lot of networking when I was in college and a lot of those connections, I still have today. So that's what I'd recommend.
Definitely. Janelle, do you want to talk to us about your internship and potentially what an internship would look like to go into a field that you're in today?
Sure. So when I originally went away to Western, I went away for pre-med. And what I found was that I hated chemistry too. So I did some quick digging and was like, I like learning about people. I like understanding consumer behavior and what makes people tick. So what's the best career that does that? And I found marketing and advertising. And so what I was able to do then was work with the people at Western, and I found 2 different internships. One, ironically, was a copywriter at a company called On Hold Systems, and I basically wrote copy messages for when people are on hold. So think of when you call a doctor's office in the olden days, and you hear a jingle. That's what I did, and it really helped me with both my written and verbal communication. And then I was fortunate enough to get into an agency. And similarly, it really solidified my love of consumer behavior and what makes people tick and how they consume media and really building out strategic approaches in order to reach those people. So for me, it was really an easy transition then. Then I knew that working at the agency solidified that that's really where I wanted to go. And so I would say, as I've transitioned into partner role, from 20 years at the agency, we certainly have internships at Disney. We're fortunate that we have them year round. So I would encourage people to, who are interested, to certainly look at, our Disney website, because there are opportunities that are available across the country.
Definitely. And Kendra,
I did. I touched
But not least.
Yeah, I touched a little bit on the internship that I did have. What's funny, Mary Pat, is actually part of what I did was the help desk too, but it was only when people were sick. So I didn't have to do it all the time. So I went from designer to help desk. But I think it's important in what you look for in an internship, and really finding an internship program that gets you, a sampling of everything. So if you're looking at it from an agency standpoint, that you're able to touch and look at all the different disciplines and domains to get a sample of everything. And while you're there, just making those connections. I mean, in all honesty, not having your head down and try, but literally picking your head up and, getting yourself into meetings. Like for us, for instance, I'll grab an intern and we'll go into a rep meeting or partner meeting and sit down in a client meeting, and just having that exposure early on and understanding the inner workings. And if they're not asking you or a lot, or having that as part of your agenda, then you ask for it. Then you just go ahead, raise your hand. And I guarantee you 100% that whoever you ask is going to bring you into, into that next meeting or expose you to that next experience.
I love that advice. It's so true. Any internship you have to make the most of it and learn the most you can during it, because that will determine your path. Definitely. I'd love to talk a little bit more at this point just about what agency integration and collaboration looks like. It might look a little different among all of our roles, but it might, it comes together as well. Tina, I think you have the coolest integration stuff going on.
Yeah, I'll speak to my head of product placement role. So again, 6 months into this job, it's for all Stellantis brands. So basically, in a nutshell, I do product placement and branded integrations for TV, film, streaming, which is increasingly popular right now with everyone being remote. So your Netflix, your Hulus, all of these new services that are popping up, your Discovery Plus. So we are looking for awesome product placement and integrations that we can place vehicles. I think one of the most noteworthy, memorable ones that wasn't a Stellantis one, which was Back to the Future. That was the ultimate product placement of all product placements, that we think of the DeLorean and we immediately think of Back to the Future. So that's my role right now at Stellantis. And in terms of agency client relationships, I have an agency of record, RDL Worldwide, that we work with for all of the product placement integrations, and ones that have media components or anything that's co-marketing that requires creative or media buy. We work with Publicists. We have a brand entertainment team on that side of the house, in addition to them being our agency of record for media.
Awesome. Collaboration is so important. And Steve, I want to turn it over to you. Your advertising, digital advertising coming out of Stellantis for Dodge and Alfa is absolutely beautiful. How does collaboration with your agency and within your client team, how does it work for you, and how do you push for it? What is the benefit? Tell us everything.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It is hard work. Like the way that I think about this is, my role is really to ensure that we have, strong media plans. So we're running in the right places, and then we have strong digital creative, and where we can, print creative, and anywhere that we have creative, that all makes sense and all works together. Right. So I think my role is it's a lot of, frankly, evaluation and decision-making, because having the agency background, I've done it before, but we hired the agency to do it now. I mean, we have the agency of record, like Tina mentioned, Publicis Group. We also work with Huge Incorporated, and they're our digital creative agency. So you have experts, and these teams run deep. I mean, there's over like 100, probably like 130 people at Publicis Group, from analytics to planning. They're talking to Janelle about Disney, right? And they're bringing us recommendations. How should we think about it? So, what we do is a lot of just, I lean on them for expertise. I have my own opinions on how I might feel about a specific plan or recommendation or media mix or channel, or, I have my own plan of approach, but we really need to lean on our agencies and their broader team. There's, the team is smarter than just one person. So it's a lot of working day in, day out with the agency and having direct communication to, you know, people like yourself, Mary Pat, and Janelle, like any of the sales reps, and making sure we have a community of people here, making sure that the community of salespeople understand our goals, and so they're bringing the right solutions to the agency. And it's just a lot of meetings, a lot of chatter, a lot of discussions, a lot of analytics, and then it's working towards, you know, one goal, and how do we get there? So that's I mean, it's a complicated business, but that sums it up pretty well, as I think of myself more as a decision maker, and then the agencies help bring the best recommendations to us.
Wonderful. Now, Janelle, I think you have a really unique perspective on this, because you were at the agency as one of the leadership role within Kara and Dentsu, and now you're working over at Disney and are thinking up the integration strategically for how to collaborate with the agencies and the clients. I'd love to hear from you what the difference is. Like, how was it at the agency, and now how is it different, and how are you using the tools that you learned at the agency to implement even better collaboration taking place between you and your clients?
Sure. So I like to think of what we do in general as really a three-legged stool. You know, it's the partner, it's the client, and it's the agency. If you think about a stool, all three parts have to work together in order to keep that stool up. So it's no different than, you know, what we're doing every single day. You know, and shifting over 2 years ago and joining Disney, you know, like I mentioned earlier, you know, I really just shifted sides of the desk. I still consider myself a strategist at heart. I would say that in my role, I'm able to elevate the conversation a little bit quicker because I've sat in the seat of the media teams that I'm meeting with. And so I know what Steve and Tina are asking them to do, because I sat in their chairs. So it helps me kind of advocate for things like, hey, we really need to understand what your business objectives are. I want to make sure that our Disney team is bringing forth recommendations that ultimately ladder up to what those business objectives are. So whether it be about talking about building a brand and awareness, or driving down the funnel a little bit further and talking about consideration or opinion or getting into people's hearts and minds, like that's what we advocate for. And so I think it's a little bit more unique in the sense that, you know, I really try to just do the same role. It's just on the partner side versus on the agency side.
Thank you. So Kendra, I love your agency. I think that you guys are brilliant and you're always winning new business. I want to know a little bit how you approach integrations and collaborations from new business and with current clients, if it's okay.
No, yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, collaboration, I mean, we have got to be collaborative. Collaboration means so many things across so many different teams. Because in working across, I mean, at any given point, you could have 7 different people in a room from different domains and different aspects. And it's truly that collaborative effort. And then we also have a lot of agency partners that we work with that are in our, you know, overall umbrella for MDC. So having and understanding the nuances of being able and how to work with different partners is critical. We have outside partners that are not part of MDC at all. And we partner with them just like they would be our partners, because at the end of the day, we're working towards solving our clients' business challenges. And as long as we have that North Star and everybody's working toward that goal and everybody's clear and communication is clear, and communication is huge. So collaboration is one piece of it, but the communication and the transparency. And I know in working with partners, like working with you, Janelle, just really coming to the table and saying, look, this is what we want to do. This is how we want to move the business for client X. How can we as partners work to do that? So really having those honest conversations up front, full transparency, just makes everything, I mean, in the end, the clients win and we win, right? So you're fulfilled in what you do and you're excited about the product you're putting out there because that's, you know, your name on it and your team. But yeah, collaboration is huge. And if you're in the mindset of working maybe a little bit more siloed, figuring out how you work in your own environment, but then being able to bring, you know, the best of you to everybody else to help collaborate is what's going to be the key.
Definitely. So 2020 was a strange year, to say the least. I think something that I was so impressed with throughout the Detroit community was how people were so agile and pivoted so quickly within their team structure and for themselves to like make it through and be mentally strong. I'd love to ask all of you, what are things that your teams implemented to make it easier for your work-life approach, and something, maybe a trick that you've put in place to make sure that you're staying great at your job, mentally strong, keeping all the plates spinning. We all have different plates, no matter what your situation is. For myself, something I've done to carve out a little time each day, I've started looking at my calendar each day, and like, instead of it just having my meetings, now I've carved up time for actually doing my work too, to make sure that I'm getting it all done. Tina, do you have any advice for everybody, or any story for like how things have been working better?
I'll say for me, the remote was interesting. Prior to my role working in product placement and media side of the house, I was actually in an experiential marketing role working on Fiat and Chrysler brands. And that was 100% live consumer events. So you can imagine what happened once the pandemic hit. Everything was canceled. So literally had zero work to do. So in the beginning, it was truly interesting, just, wondering what was going to happen, with the unknown. And as I transitioned to this new role, I went from literally doing little to no work, kind of just playing with budgets, to 100% fully engulfed in work, back-to-back meetings, Monday through Friday. Sometimes don't know when the day starts and stops. I had to really do a pause and really say, I'm going to burn myself out. Like, I was still checking emails at 11 o'clock at night, just wanting to not have 50 unread emails the next day. So to your point, I actually like that tip, to block off time to do work. But for me, I definitely take time to block off time to eat lunch. That's something that we easily can just keep going. And that 1 hour, even if it's just 12 to 1, every single day, I block off my calendar to just say, I'm going to stop and eat lunch right now. Even if I leave the house, or if I just go sit in another room, turn on the TV just to kind of break up my day. I know gyms are back open here and there. I started, again, you just have to do things outside of just sitting. And I think that really has helped me to mentally be able to deal with, being, I don't want to say stuck, but I mean, we're stuck because we're remote. And definitely, you just have to break up your day. Don't let it just sit in the same spot for an extended period of time and not really take time for you, because you'll get burnt out.
I love the advice about blocking off lunch. What I've just been doing is eating all day, so I'm going to try that. That's a very good tip. Steve, I'm going to move over to you. Is there anything that your team's done to make work-life balance better? Is there anything that specifically you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was this period of adaptation that everyone went through back in March or April when everything was remote, right? We all had to get our cameras, make sure like our mics were on. Once the dust settled on that and we all got comfortable with remote work, I got really comfortable with it. I actually like remote work a lot. It allows you to reduce the distractions. Aside from all the instant messages, you sort of have to block that out, because people will just ping you all day, which is tough. But yeah, a couple things. I mean, for me, I have this like morning ritual where I'll make coffee and then I'll sit down and we get automated like daily reports, and maybe if whatever role you're in, generally you always get these automated reports, right? So I usually sit down with some data and my cup of coffee, and I start my day with that. I don't dig into emails. I don't talk to anybody. I look at, what the trend is for the day and see, and just kind of catch up like that. When it's warm out, I'll go for a walk. Definitely during the middle of the day, you got to get moving. I wear my Fitbit, so I track my steps. And if you don't get up, if you don't leave, like this is my office, if I don't leave my office, I'm literally, I'm eating and I'm not walking, right? So you need to, and that helps with ideation. And you can do meetings when you're, you can do walk and talk meetings. So we have to, rethink how we work. And then another point on that, and this will be my last point, I think, on this is that I've never been a morning person, still not. I'm working towards it, but the shift to remote work has allowed me to shift my schedule. And I'll tell Tina this, because I'm like, I'm like, I hit my stride when it's later in the day, like bar none. I'll work later. That's totally fine. So when I'm not asked to be, at my desk at a specific time every morning, it honestly makes me a better worker. So I can start, I can have a more relaxed way to my morning, but I'll be emailing at, 8 o'clock at night and different things. I'll be emailing on the weekends because it's like, what are days in this weird COVID world, right? Like we don't have a regular schedule. So you have to find that works, and then just make sure that the people that work around you sort of understand that too. So people don't usually bother me that early in the morning anyway. So
that's such a good advice too, to make sure that your teams understand what your hours are. At my company, we utilize Slack, and you can put like when you're available and when you're not. I find that to be really helpful. Also, what I've been doing is if I'm working off hours, let's say I'm up late with a baby, late night, I might write an email, but then I'll schedule it to go out in the morning instead of like, midnight or 12:30 or whatever. Janelle, I'd love to get insights from you and tips.
Sure. I would say, here we are now 300 plus days in this journey. It was what I like to call it. And I think we've all evolved, right? Here's 5 of us on a call today, and we've invited over 90 people into our homes. Like that would never happen before. And I think it's so fascinating in terms of how, you have learned to build connections and rapport over calls. In a live setting, you'd be looking around the room to try and figure out some of those visual cues and body language. You don't have that anymore. And so I think it's been really a stretch for all of us really to learn, all right, how do I do that now? Like, what do I look for to figure out, are people nodding? Are they engaged? Are there other things going on in their life? Like, I'll use the example, a couple months ago, my son who's 12 decided to join my Zoom call in a dinosaur costume behind me with clients. And I was like, oh my God. But then at the same time, I embraced it because I'm like, you know what? Everybody's experiencing these human moments. I was embarrassed at first, but then like it livened the mood, right? There's been client conversations where I had a guy who was holding his 3-month baby and feeding her. And so it was like those human moments that, I don't want to lose sight of because it brings smiles to our faces. And, for all of us, like we're on calls from probably 8 to 8, right? 10, Tina mentioned it, 10 Zoom calls a day, every day, rinse and repeat. And so I think it's really critical. We've done a really good job at Disney and on my team about just checking in on our people. Like before we get right into business, it's like, hey, how are you doing today? Things that we found and heard from other agencies, like one agency had done a big analysis on the number of people that live alone. So 50% of their employees live alone, which, to those of us on the phone, we might have roommates or spouses, et cetera, but this pandemic has certainly taken a mental toll on people, as we're all seeing. And so I think that this has really forced that issue to the forefront. And I think that's something that, we definitely aren't going to lose sight of. And then I will say, there are those special moments for me. I was about to embark on a very heavy travel schedule. My kids were about to go into sports. And so it's given us a chance to take a step back, and we have dinner as a family every night. We talk about our days, things like I've now learned to move my computer to the basement because like all of us, I'm sure we were all typing on the weekends because you just happen to be like, oh, I'll just spend like a couple quick minutes and do some emails. So shifting in terms of how we behave as workers. The work gets done. We're just changing our behavior.
Thank you. I'm glad we're covering this because we have students that are living this from a school perspective, and just having them be able to visualize how it's going to be when they go to work. Potentially it would be more normal, hopefully, but if it's not, there's still solutions out there and we're all making it work. Kendra, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. I do have to say I'm really proud of how our team adjusted very quickly. I mean, we had a couple of folks that, work from home maybe one day a week and whatnot, but clearly not collectively as an agency. And we had done a test run. We had scheduled a test run for a Wednesday. So everybody was home on Wednesday and we're all getting set up. Well, we had gotten a call that someone could have been potentially exposed, all that. So then we're like, okay, Thursday, Friday, we'll see what we can do. And just the the community and coming together and just the rapid response and just being able to be flexible and human. I think you mentioned that, Janelle, just that aspect of it. And then we shut down, like we never went back. So people who thought they were going to go back that next day, everything was still left there and whatnot. So just being able to adapt to that and quickly get back in the groove without missing a beat. I know for us from a leadership standpoint, there's 15 of us that get on a call every day at 5 o'clock. And I think only maybe once or twice at the most that it's been moved or postponed or whatnot. So we are meeting on a regular basis. And I meet with my teams at least twice a week. We were in the very beginning, literally doing it at noon. So we're all going to eat, we're all going to have lunch, or so we had this noon call scheduled, and it was really a way of, you know, everybody kind of coming together. And then it turned from how we're working at home, how we're adjusting to obviously clearly, you know, client business and whatnot. So it's something that we're continuing that's just been great. But in this time too, you get so, you know, focused on what you're doing. It's still important that we continue to learn and to be curious, because we don't necessarily have that outside where you're just stopping by a calm drive by. Everybody's desk is, you know, throughout the day. So I listen to Masterclass. So I've got a subscription to Masterclass. Our whole leadership team does. And we pick a topic and, you know, every week or two, and it's almost like the book, kind of the book review, but it's actually pretty awesome. So I highly recommend that, just to stay in. TED Talks, you can do obviously just a couple ones to pick up, but just really keeping in that from, you know, and schedule them throughout your day. I'm not saying you have to do them at night at 9 o'clock or on the weekends, but schedule that time during the day to do a little bit of something, you know, different to keep that, you know, the juices flowing and keep it going. But yeah, I think that I'm really proud and surprised of how all of us have been able to really come through all of this. And it's going to be a new working environment moving forward, and what that looks like. That was our call on Friday. Just what does that look like moving forward, and how are we going to use the office space and whatnot. So. Yeah.
So interesting. I mean, sometimes things happen in history that you have to pause, take a heartbeat, and figure out how it's going to affect how you move forward. And this is definitely a time in history that has done that for us. We're getting a lot of really great Q&As coming in, and I'm gonna go through it, and then we're gonna do one more roundtable after that. But we have one from Abigail from Western Michigan. Hi, Abigail. Hello, how do you think upcoming college graduates can utilize their work from home life now when they enter the workforce in a few months? I think that's a great question. I think we just talked about it a little bit, but my viewpoint on it is that you're already prepped to kill it once you enter this market. Like you've been doing this, and just knowing how to focus and stay productive. I think that is something that is very helpful. But anybody else like to take this one on and add anything to that?
I was going to say,
go ahead, Tina.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just going to say, you're watching it. Like, this is our work from home experience every single day. It's a Zoom. Is it Zoom? Is it Microsoft? Is it Google Meet? We're always on one platform back to back, having calls with our clients, with our agency partners, with potential partners. It's ongoing. So I don't think that you should by all means feel intimidated by it as you are entering the workforce. It's just a different time. And I think eventually we'll transition maybe 1 day a week, 2 days a week back into a traditional work environment. But this is it. So, I mean, I don't want to say we're used to it, but this is the best way as of right now.
It's so impressive, though, how everybody was so nimble and switched over to that so quickly, and they're able to make sure that all of our companies stayed productive and the career path stayed in line. A lot of what you just said fits with our next Q&A question from Brandon. While remote, what are the new collaboration tools that your organization uses? And I'd like to add on to that, what are your favorite organizational and collaborative tools that we utilize? I love Slack. Mm-hmm. Although I will say that with so many collaboration tools, it's almost like, okay, where is the information coming to me at? So it's kind of like making sure you don't lose it as you're using so many tools. Steve, what's your favorite collaboration tool?
I mean, I think a lot of it is actually in my phone. Like I talk to more people on the phone now than I ever even did in the office, because you would do, I think what Kendra mentioned is a drive-by. Like that stuff happens all the time. You know, people just pop up, oh, hey, I had that question. Well, you don't have that, right? So we're texting, we're calling, and of course the instant message is, you know, you need an answer, you get it. So we use that constantly. Just those. I mean, it's a communication thing. So you just got to make sure you're always connected.
Anybody else have another collaboration tool? Janelle, do you have a favorite collaboration tool that you're utilizing at Disney?
Yeah, I would say, you know, for us, depending on the partners we work with, we need to learn them all. So whether it be MS Teams, whether it be Zoom, whether it be Slack, like you talk about being nimble, and it's, we found that every partner has a different platform. So it's best if, frankly, you know, you just kind of learn them all, because they're all going to be used at some point, depending upon who you're meeting with.
I use Teams and Slack and then text somebody to tell them that I sent them. But yeah, it's a little, you need to be over communicative in this environment. So that's very important.
And I was going to add one more point. Don't think that every day you have to be camera ready. By all means, it's kind of these little unwritten rules depending on the number of people in the meetings. Usually if it's a few, you may have your camera off, or if it's a lot, you may have your camera off. So by all means, you don't have to be camera ready from the waist up in every single instance in meetings. So, you know, it just is kind of the vibe of who your audience and who you're discussing and having a meeting with.
I mean, a year ago, you'd have a conference call and there would be no video. You'd have to actually kind of go to a room, or at least we'd go to a room that had the Zoom room ready to go and test it. So yeah, I agree. We don't need to be there all the time.
Okay, we have a great question here from Ian Bishop. Which is more important for advertising for my career, a paid work experience or an unpaid internship? I'm going to go with Janelle on this one.
Sure, I'll take that. I mean, I had both. So, you know, I felt like I walked away with both with equally as much knowledge that solidified marketing and advertising as a career path. I will say I appreciated the income for the paid internship, but nonetheless, I think both are equally as valuable. And quite honestly, you know, let's be honest, the internship process is highly competitive. So there are things that you can do in terms of just job shadowing, you know, use the work from home period right now and leverage accessibility. You know, you'd be surprised at sending a LinkedIn note and, hey, I want to talk to you about what it's like to work here or there. You know, most people will take 15 minutes out of their day, 20 minutes out of their day to talk to you about what they do and why they love it.
I love this. Okay, our next question is coming from Nicole Miller at Western Michigan. What did you do to stand out from the competition when interviewing, applying for a job at a major company like Disney or Stellantis that demonstrated your leadership and collaboration traits? Tina, do you want to take this to start? And then I'll move over to Steve and Kendra and Janelle.
Yeah, I'll say in terms of standing out, I would say don't just come to work just to do your job. I think all of us have participated in other things outside of our day-to-day roles. You know, you can't just go to work, show up for a meeting and say, oh, I did a fantastic job. Like in terms of what we're looking for as employees, or just me personally, I like to do other things. I participate and sit on other boards, just different opportunities. Even at work, we have these business resource groups that we participate in, Women's Alliance and the AdCon, the African Ancestry Network. So it just, I think people who do other things and volunteer to just show that you can do more really helps you stand out. And you can network. Again, it's all about meeting people. Even how I got involved with this was someone who reached out to me to say, hey, I think you'd be great. You know, we've had a few conversations. And networking is key. And like you said, 15 minutes just to say, hey, people will talk to you and have conversations and quick little one-on-ones. Very open, and just don't be scared to ask.
I love that. Steve, you're up next.
Yeah, a couple thoughts. I mean, obviously, you know, have a good resume, make sure it's like super strong points that you can speak to that you have. And then I guess what else? I think Denise mentioned this in the last panel on media planning. So if you tuned into that, you've heard it, but she said she hires based on attitude because a lot of people have really good resumes, straight up. Like, but what is your attitude when you walk in the door? And I think when you take that a step further, what's your story? So when you walk in, I mean, you want to understand the business. So that comes in your prep. You want to understand your background, and that's, you know, obviously your experience, but how are you going to approach the job and get in some like non-business type of conversation, you know, shake someone's hand when they say, tell me about yourself. Hey, you know, I rock climb. Hey, I'm a marathoner. Hey, like tell them about you. So then when you walk out of there, they know who you are and that you're not just like speaking to some of these like canned answers. And like that alone can, like, it may seem obvious, but that alone, a lot of people don't do, and it can set you apart. So I'd recommend that.
That's great advice. Kendra, you're up next.
I would say ask questions. Honestly, in an interview, ask absolutely when you're talking to people, the more curious you are. I mean, that's honestly what I look for is curiosity, willingness to learn, truly just interested in showing up. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
Such good advice. And Janelle, over to you.
Sure. I'd say be yourself. You know, Tina kind of touched on it. You know, you don't want to be one-dimensional. And so, you know, when I'm hiring, it's things like, I want to get to know you as a person. I can teach you how to be a strategist. I can't teach you some of the basic traits of how to be a human. So, you know, when I'm interviewing and asking questions, it's really getting to know you as a person. What makes you tick? And, you know, what other outside interests do you have, whether you're involved in some philanthropy or, you know, you're coaching something or what have you. You know, I like to live by the quote, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. So to me, those are the types of dimensionality that I look for. One, I hold my own self to, but also look for in others.
Definitely. When I was on the agency side, one of the things I definitely looked for was listening skills. Before, after, like the research that went into that the student or potential person who was looking for a job was had put into learning about the role before they came for the interview. And also levels of empathy. If you can display your levels of empathy to really fully understand all the different types of people and humans that you'll be working with, just to make sure that you're able to connect and take the time to really understand situations, I think that plays a huge role. Okay, the next question, I love this one too. What has been more valuable to your career? Sorry, this is from Kieran McGray. What has been, from Michigan State, go green. Which has been more valuable to your career, your education or your experience, and why? I can start it out by just saying that I think that who you are as a human, like what Janelle was saying, is so important. And I think that it's a combination of both when I look at it from my perspective, and also a layer of grit. I think that your grittiness to commit to get something done will take you much farther in your career than you ever dreamt possible. It's just committing to it and doing it. And I'm going to pass it over to Tina.
Hey, I agree with you, Mary Pat. It's a combination of both. I think your education will definitely get you in the door, but it is the work that really speaks for you. I mean, I didn't really talk about my true 18 years of work history, but I've worked on the agency side. I've worked at a multicultural agency doing strategy and analytics. So to me, I worked in media. So I think all of these different pieces and areas that I worked in within an ad agency, I feel like was able to really help me make me a more well-rounded individual once I transitioned to the client side, because I really understood the ins and outs of how a traditional agency works, and everything that it takes to really be a collaborative partner. I've had some pretty crappy clients when I was on the agency side. I mean, just being transparent. So to me, I never want to be that. So having worked on both sides, I feel like it really helps. I started in traffic as an account coordinator at BBDO. So starting from the very, very bottom, and just really working your way and showing that determination that you really have the heart and the passion to really want to work in the industry. So it really is a combination of both, I would say.
I love that. And I think that all of your agencies are incredibly lucky to work with you. You're amazing. Steve, over to you.
Yeah, a couple thoughts on this one. I definitely agree it is a combination. So, you know, when you think of like your college experience, you know, the way I think about that, that's your fundamentals. So you can't say that I don't still, you know, whiteboard or put on a PowerPoint like your SWOT analysis and your 4 Ps, right? Like those are incredibly important for you to know and for you to hold with you, you know, your whole career, because those are the fundamentals. But, you know, when I was in school, you know, the TikToks didn't exist. Like YouTube is just coming up. Like, I mean, it's crazy. Like the landscape changes, and you better expect that landscape to change from what you're learning today. It will. It always does. That's the crazy thing about this business. So I would say, so experience is incredibly important. You're going to learn so much more from the people around you, from being in the boardrooms, listening to other people talk, learning how to take notes, learning how to be organized, learning how to work. Like it is incredibly hard. You have to find your own systems. So you do that. That's your experience piece. But last point on this I'll say is be, you know, dedicate some time, be a lifelong learner. So, you know, you better bet when I meet with people about programmatic advertising and DSPs and DMPs and CDPs that I'm leaving that meeting and I'm researching and I'm going to teach myself about it. So the next time that I'm in a conversation talking about that, I know what I'm talking about. And you have to do that. I mean, you got to stay relevant. You got to just, there's always something new. So it's totally both. It's totally both.
Janelle, over to you.
Yeah, I would say I agree with, you know, Steve and Tina. I mean, every road you take leads you to where you are today. Certainly, I wouldn't be where I am without kind of my background at Western. I had a capstone class that really kind of solidified how an agency ran and behaved. And we built a media plan, ironically, for Denoyer Chevrolet, which I assume is still in business. And that kind of transcended me into the auto world. But I would say, you know, the people that I've met along the way have really helped get me to where I am today. And so I'd say, you know, that's something for the folks who are joining us on the call is, you know, build what I like to call your kitchen cabinet. So these are the people who you reach out to when you're about to make decisions in your life, whether it be personal or professional. And, you know, those are the people in my life that I kind of relied upon to help guide me throughout my career as I shifted from agency to partner. So look for those people who can mentor you, or even better yet, sponsor you to get you to where you are and what your vision is for achieving as a kind of a corporate citizen.
Okay, so we have time for one more roundtable. We have a question from Anthony Russo from Michigan State. Thank you for taking the time to be present here today. A recurring theme today is building your personal brand. Can you please share how each of you specifically built your personal brands over time? And Kendra, we're going to start with you.
Yes, that's a really good question. And authentic, just authenticity and just being yourself in every situation, and don't go against your values. Every brand and client you work with has values. Every company that you're going to work for has values, but what are your personal values that you can bring to the table? I think is just critical, particularly now in this, you know, in this time. So not veering from that and just truly being true to yourself, if you will, and the whole aspect of, you know, making sure that, and if you're in a situation where it doesn't feel like a match, or it doesn't feel like, you know, that you're feeling really good about the work you're doing, or a client that you're working on, raise your hand, let your manager know, let your team know that, you know, this is something that perhaps maybe you're better suited on another team, or another, you know, working on another brand. I find that my team who, you know, that are passionate about what they do, and they're passionate about a particular brand or something that they stand for, the work is amazing. So really having that level of passion come through is really gonna speak to your personal brand, and it'll morph over time. Where you start with from a personal brand standpoint, where you come out right now in your first couple of years, I challenge you to check that every couple of years or so often, because while you're true to your core, it's going to develop over time.
Definitely. Tina, do you have advice on building your personal brand?
In terms of building a personal brand, I would say everything is the way in society is, it's funny how it was mentioned about how Steve mentioned TikTok wasn't around. When I was around, I was in my second role when I worked in media, I was the first person on my team that needed a .edu email address to join Facebook. So just showing how things have transitioned and changed. And I think be mindful that things follow you, social media, all these different platforms. So what you put out there about yourself, just remember, you can't undo it. So over time, just make sure everything reflects you. I always try to live by the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So treat people how you want to be treated, to expect that reciprocation. And I don't know, it definitely has opened doors.
I love that. Steve, do you have anything that you'd like to share about building your brand?
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts, and they're probably all cliche, because there's some quotes that I always go back to, right? So one of them is, it's not what you know, it's not who you know. Well, wait, hold on. How do I say this? It's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's what you're known for, right? And so what that means is, like, you could have the best relationships, you could be the smartest person, but it's what people, think of when they think of you, right? And so that's one thing I always go back to. What was another cliche? I have a bunch of these cliches. You have to think of, like, I guess when we think of marketing, we always talk about like brand pillars and things like that, right? So it's like, think about what you want to be known for. To me, like the two driving, I guess pillars that I have always had, maybe three: passion, because I don't know if everyone has passion, but I definitely do. So I try to use that through my work. Positivity. And I learned that from Charlie Wohlberg from Curve Creative from way back in the day. Charlie's a great guy. Charlie's really positive. I learned that from him. And that especially goes through on social. Think about it on social. Okay. What you say, just keep those negative thoughts, keep them to yourself. No one cares. No one needs to know about them. Like, just stay positive if you can. And then work damn hard, because no one gets anywhere in this business without working hard. You need that. So those three things. And then I'll say too, like, be bold and, dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have, so have that long-term view. Where do you want to go? And, and just kind of direct yourself there. So those few things have I've used throughout the years.
It's wonderful advice. Janelle, do you have advice on building your brand?
Yeah, I would say kind of, know your moral compass. And so use that as your guide and as your North Star. There's been things over my career that were off, and it really propelled me in a different direction because of that. But I think if you know yourself and you're, like Kendra said, you're authentic, you know what matters to you, what's important, that's going to get you far. And along the way, you're probably going to have some missteps and falls, and that's okay, because really the greatest learning, in my opinion, the greatest learning comes from the trying times. No one ever looks back on the easy times and was like, oh wow, I learned so much. Most people learn the most when they are in the trenches, and, like, candidly, it's probably the biggest shit show of whatever project they're in, but you walk away from it, with a heck of a lot more learning, and you're certainly going to do better the second time. So that's been my experience.
I love that. I truly believe that trust in brands are, it's earned over time. And maybe it's just because Janelle spoke last, or it's because we're in a pandemic and I have 4 kids. But I go back to Frozen 2, like, you got to do the next right thing and make it about the work and have assumption of positive intent, so you're empathetic and want to collaborate. I think we're a little bit over our time. I want to thank our panelists for joining us today. I also want to thank you for dialing in. I'm excited for your future careers. Detroit is a very, very special place, and our community here, we all look out for each other. I would ask you to probably reach out and try to link in with the people that you've seen today. Reach out when you have questions. Reach out directly to me. I'm happy to work with anyone who's prepping for interviews. We're all here, and we're excited for your future, and we're looking forward to working with you one day. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.